Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the CFMOTO CLC 450. This is CFMOTO's lightweight beginner cruiser motorcycle. It's designed to compete with the likes of the Honda Rebel 500 and the Kawasaki Eliminator. All three of these machines on paper are very close to each other in terms of specification. If you watched this video from me a few weeks ago, then you know that this bike has now officially been confirmed at the AIM Expo that it will be coming to the United States. I did another video last year talking about this motorcycle, but it was still kind of up in the air on whether or not it was actually going to come to fruition. I put a couple of specifications into a spreadsheet and talked about how it compares to those two motorcycles I mentioned earlier, but now we have some hard stats and specifications and a lot more info on this motorcycle, so I figured I would share it with you like I mentioned I would be doing last week in this video. So let's talk a little bit more about this motorcycle and what it has to offer and why it's going to be a big deal in the beginner cruiser segment. Before we get going, if by the end of the video you decide that you like what we're doing here and you found this video interesting or helpful, please consider leaving a like on it. If you want to see more content like this from me in the future, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to spread the good word of CFMOTO and what their motorcycles have to offer, maybe consider hitting that share button and sending this link to your group chat where you talk about motorcycles. Thank you. So the CLC 450 was obviously designed to compete with the best in its class, and the mold has already been set. Japanese companies know what Western consumers want, so it's up to CFMOTO, the Chinese company, to look at their homework and maybe change a couple of things up and have their own version of it. Enter the CLC 450. It's a bold statement with cutting-edge technology, timeless design, that's engineered to captivate riders seeking both style and substance. And sure, I can just say that, but we can dive further underneath the surface level and talk about the innovative design choices that CFMOTO has elected to move on to set this bike apart. One of the most unique features found on this motorcycle is the belt drive system. Belt drive systems offer smoother operation and reduced maintenance compared to chain drives found on the competitors. Another bonus to that is that a belt drive is quieter than a chain drive. Another standout feature that the CLC 450 brings to the table is a 37mm inverted fork. Inverted forks are most commonly found on sport motorcycles, but it's slowly becoming more and more commonplace to find them on motorcycles that aren't just sport-oriented. The main advantage that you're going to see from an inverted fork to a conventional fork with a traditional setup is that inverted forks have better sprung mass, meaning that if an inverted fork was mounted conventionally, all of the mass would be hanging down low on your wheel, which is going to not necessarily drastically increase the weight of your front end, but the inverted fork will give you a lighter feel when it comes to steering. And while we're on the subject of the front end, it should be noted that in my previous video, I said that it came with a 300mm disc, and the Cycle World article where I got much of my information shared some of that same knowledge, so I just went off of what I thought was right. But after visiting the CFMOTO Global website, I've actually learned that the front disc on this motorcycle is a 320mm setup with a 4-piston caliper, which is provided to us by J. Juan, who is a subsidiary of Brembo. Another highlight I'd like to point out on this motorcycle, according to the CFMOTO Global website, this motorcycle does come standard with ABS, which is nothing new for a CFMOTO product, as you've learned watching some of my other content. But on the Global website, it also mentioned that this motorcycle comes with traction control. Which brings me to a little talking point here. I'm starting to see a trend of more motorcycle manufacturers offering traction control on lower displacement bikes where it may not necessarily come in all that handy, but it's something that manufacturers can put onto a product to say, oh, look, we're innovating and we're giving you more value. And while it's not a bad thing, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing because now we're just adding weight to the motorcycle for technology that we will most likely never see ourselves use on this capacity of a motorcycle. But, knowing that you have those features does maybe give you a little bit more of a sense of confidence while you're out on the open roadways and varying conditions are underneath your tires. And on the subject of maybe not needing that power for traction control to ever come in handy, we can talk about the engine. The CLC 450 engine, it should come as no surprise, this uses the same 450 engine that we've now seen in the 450 SS, the 450 NK, and the upcoming Ibex 450. It's nothing new for a manufacturer to utilize one engine and then take that engine and put it into different chassis and types of motorcycles so that they can reach a broader audience while using their economies of scale to keep costs down by only having to produce one power plant for various segments. But it is worth noting that the previous generations of this engine that we've seen in these other motorcycles has a horsepower rating of 50. In the CLC, it looks like CFMOTO Global has rated this at a 40 horsepower rating, which is actually a little bit lower than the competition coming from the Rebel 500 and the Kawasaki Eliminator. But the torque numbers are very similar, floating right around 30 foot-pounds, so in the low end and mid-range RPMs, this is going to be a really competitive bike. But when it comes to that high revving horsepower that, mind you, cruisers are not typically known for, it is going to peter off a little bit on the top end. At least on paper, that's how it reads to me. But what do you think? This is an excellent time for you to maybe take a moment, go ahead into that comment section and give me your thoughts so far on what you think of this motorcycle and how it might fit into the world for you or what you dislike about it. Go ahead, I'll wait. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the styling. I gotta give big kudos to CFMOTO on the styling of this motorcycle. Much like their other products lately, this is another home run in my opinion. It takes a lot of classical styling cues that us as Americans are familiar with, the long and low look to it, even though on paper the wheelbase is shortest in class. It also has that classically styled traditional British tank, but they've done some molding and shaping to give it a more modern appeal. I think this bike has a great stance, and to many Americans, it's gonna look and feel like your typical cruiser that you've got this mental image of in your head. It almost kind of fits that mold. So I think with the distinctive tank shape, the sleek body lines, and that twin exit exhaust, this is really shaping up to look like a real cruiser that people are going to want to be seen on and are going to want to ride. And the last two things I want to mention are the mirrors and the exhaust note. This is going to sound like a real cruiser should. The Eliminator and the Honda Rebel are both very underwhelming sounding motors. Flat plane crankshafts just don't sound good out of the box. And even whenever you put an exhaust on them, it's kind of just a noisemaker. The cross-plane crankshaft in the 450 CLC, or CLC 450, whatever they're gonna call it, is gonna make this thing have the rumble and the grumble of what most would identify as a V-twin exhaust note. But if you've been down the rabbit hole of why a 270-degree crank sounds as good as it does, you already know that this motorcycle is gonna just sound better, so I feel the CLC has that going for it with just the exhaust note alone. And then lastly, the bar end mirrors that come on the CLC 450 are gonna look so much better than the silly perch mounted Mickey Mouse mirrors that come on the Honda Rebel and the Kawasaki Eliminator, giving it overall an excellent design aesthetic. There's a lot more that we could talk about with this motorcycle, but I've been trying to keep the videos relatively short lately, so the content for you is easy to digest. And I'm not just pumping you full of that information saturation that sometimes I get carried away with. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with this motorcycle. Next week, I will probably be bringing you a very brief vlog video from a stunt lot session I had with a couple of the employees from Big St. Charles Motorsports earlier this week. Hopefully, with the weather warming back up, we can get back into test ride season and I can start bringing you guys some reviews again. We're not quite there yet, but we're close. Again, if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, entertaining, or anything positive about it, consider leaving a like on it. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, or you just want to follow me on my journey on two wheels, consider hitting that subscribe button, and while you're at it, maybe hit that little share button below as well. Send this to a friend who may benefit from the knowledge, or share it in your motorcycle group where you talk about motorcycles and spark a conversation. This is a last-minute decision I'm making as I'm recording this. I'm coming up on 10,000 subscribers. I'm on my way there. I think right now we're sitting at about 8,600-ish. Once we hit 10,000, I'm gonna give away, I don't know, $50 to Revzilla.com. All you have to do to enter is leave a like on this video and leave a comment below that says Spring 2024 Revzilla giveaway. And I will enter your name into a list. From that list, we'll go into a wheel. I will spin that wheel and someone will be selected at random to win $50 to Revzilla.com, where you can pick up some sweet gear. If you don't know what to get, check out some of my links below in the description to get an idea on what might work for you so you can enhance your riding experience. That's all I've got. I don't have anything else to say. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and ride safe.